AP Offensive Player of the Year. Obviously, Saquon Barkley took this home last year. He's the favorite once again at plus 500. Then you have Jahmyr Gibbs at 10-1. You have Jamar Chase at 10-1. Bijan at 12-1. Derrick Henry 14-1. Justin Jefferson, Puka 16-1. CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, Nico Collins at 18-1. Amon-Ra at 20-1. And Josh Jacobs at 25-1. And that's where I would stop. There's nobody down the odds board that interests me really after Josh Jacobs at 25-1. So let's go through all these names because I got two guys that I really have my eye on for this award. Saquon is the favorite, the big favorite, and rightfully so. After the year that he had last year, probably could have broken the rushing record if they played him the final week of the regular season. Still very much in his prime, running behind one of the best offensive lines in the league, and he should have another massive season. New offensive coordinator, right? Kellen Moore now is off to the New Orleans Saints. So, how does that change things a little bit? Do they lean on Saquon as much because they asked him to do so much last season? And if the Eagles are trying to repeat, do they be cautious with the carries for Saquon? Do they pick and choose their games? Maybe where they give him 25, 30 carries, other games where they only give him 12 or 13 carries, like the Ravens did with Derrick Henry last year. I just don't want to bet Saquon at this price. And look, for a guy who was able to stay healthy last season, he obviously has had his fair share of injuries when he's been in the NFL. So if he misses a week or two, if they're cautious with him, all this contributes obviously to him in this market. Plus, it's tough to repeat. So at plus 500, I'm not betting Saquon. Jahmyr Gibbs at 10-1. Terrific player. If Ben Johnson was still the OC in Detroit, I think this would be interesting. But without Ben Johnson, I can't get involved with Jahmyr Gibbs at 10-1 because we don't know what the Lions offense is going to look like. We don't know what Jared Goff's going to look like without Ben Johnson. We don't know what the ratio between run and pass is going to look like with Detroit either. So as much as I love Gibbs, as electrifying as he is, as much of a game changer as he is, and the fact that he absolutely should be amongst the favorites in this market, I'm not touching him at 10-1. Then we have Jamar Chase at 10-1. And Chase, he won the Triple Crown as a receiver last year, right? Guy's incredible. And if T. Higgins stays healthy, that helps both guys. If T. Higgins stays healthy, well, T. Higgins is going to get his numbers. And then if Higgins is on the field, that's going to attract less attention on Jamar Chase to go and do his thing. I think of the top three guys, Barkley, Gibbs, and Chase, I would definitely look at Jamar Chase, right? Because it's going to kind of have to be the same thing for the Bengals. They're going to have to score points if they're going to want to win a lot of these games. They're likely not going to be able to keep Trey Hendrickson, and their defense was already bad to begin with last year. It's going to be bad again this year. So if the Bengals want to win a lot of these games, they got to do it behind their offense and look for Burrow and Chase and Higgins to put up monster numbers yet again. So I think Chase is a good bet. Bijan Robinson at 12-1, I would stay away from. Michael Penix obviously gets his first full year as a starter. We saw him at the end of the season, and he did some really good things, but we still don't really know how great Michael Penix is. And now with the full offseason and teams having some game film and being able to prepare for him, what is that going to look like? What's it going to look like, Michael Penix, week to week, now that teams have some tape on him? I just don't think we can bet Bijan at this price, right? Because early on in the season, teams are going to load the box. They're going to force Michael Penix to beat them, and they're going to try and take Bijan away. So I have to see Penix play good quarterback before I can bet Bijan at this kind of price. I'm going to stay away from him. Derrick Henry at 14-1. As much as I love the King, and I think maybe he's got two more really good years left in him. Certainly should be really good again this year. I think the Ravens, again, are going to be cautious with Derrick Henry. If you watched him last year in the regular season, there were certain games where they would really lean on him, where they would run him 20 to 25 times a game, and then there were other games where they would only run with him 11 to 12. They're very cautious. They're very heady about when they want to run Derrick, so you always have to keep that in mind. And I would not take Derrick this year at AP Offensive Player of the Year. Justin Jefferson, incredible receiver, arguably the best in the NFL, but how good is J.J. McCarthy? None of us have any idea. If you think KOC is a quarterback whisperer, which I think at this point we've established he is, and if you think he loves McCarthy, and the reason they were comfortable moving on from Darnold and making him the guy is because they think he's really, really good, I think Jefferson's a good bet then at 16-1, right? You're getting arguably the best receiver in football at 16-1. If he had a Joe Burrow throwing to him, he'd be like 8-1 in this market. So if McCarthy ends up being really good, Jefferson has a great shot at winning this award. but at the chance that he isn't, and there's probably a better chance he isn't than he is, I'm going to pass on Justin Jefferson. But the guy that I love in this market for AP Offensive Player of the Year is Christian McCaffrey at 18-1. CMC should be back this season after having those lingering injuries last year that kept him out for essentially a whole year. He could never get back to that form that we saw him a couple years ago where he nearly won the MVP. He should be back this season. And look at the offseason that San Francisco had, right? Gave up a ton of guys on defense. Ayuk's not coming back until probably the middle of the season. Got rid of Deebo Samuel. Paid Brock Purdy a bunch of money. Trent Williams is still there on the offensive line. I think San Francisco is really going to lean on the running game this season. They're going to do the things that got them to being successful. And that was running the ball with McCaffrey, Purdy off of play action, and then having their defense led by Nick Bosa up front tee off on these opposing quarterbacks. Also, San Francisco, the way that their schedule sets up for them should really be advantageous for Christian McCaffrey. This year's schedule, they face 8 of the top 10 worst rushing defenses from last season. So there's a great chance that McCaffrey's going to have some monster games this year with some of the run defense he's going to be going up against. If he can stay healthy, which he has done in his Niners career outside of last season, I think this price at 18-1 for McCaffrey is a great one. So I love him for AP Offensive Player of the Year.